think we're now live.
I see live on my screen.
Yep,
Mine too.
I see it.
Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the first virtual meeting of the City of Westmoreland. This is our rescheduled regular meeting from March the 19th. It is now April the 2nd, 7:05 p.m. and we're probably going to have a few kinks tonight, but we welcome our viewers in that are watching us, and we welcome all of our council members that are here. I have something from the comptroller's office to read before we start. And it says on March the 20th, 2020, Governor Bill Lee signed Executive Order number 16, which suspends the rules for Tennessee Open Meetings Act and allows us to have an electronic meeting. Our city council members have adopted doing this meeting by electronic means because it was a determination that we meet electronically as necessary to protect public health, safety, and the welfare in light that the governing body has now determined that we would meet as this. We are live streaming on YouTube. And once again, we appreciate you joining us. If anyone has any questions or anything that would like to address our council during the public comments section, we will be trying to, if you could go in and I guess you send those questions to Miss Tina Martin. She is the one that is the administrator on our site tonight. And we would like to thank Ms. Martin. She has worked very hard to get this up with us, as well as our city attorney, John Bradley. So it's my understanding we're making history tonight by being the first one in Sumner County to do this. So I will officially call this meeting to order, and Mr. John Bradley is going to do our devotion and our pledge.
Let's go to our Father in prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for being our God, and we just ask that you'll be with our country and our world, dear Lord, this time of this coronavirus pandemic, and just be with all those around the world that are suffering. And we just ask that you'll let this pass as soon as possible, and just help those that are sick to be well, dear Lord, and just be with us through this troubled time, and help us to do the right things for the people of Westmoreland. And just thank you for being our God. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Trout, if you will now call the roll, and I might point out that all votes tonight are required to be by roll call, so we know that will maybe be an inconvenience, but that's the way that the rules read.
Tony Bennell,
Present.
Doug Brown,
Here.
Frida Carter,
Present.
Jerry Kirkman,
Present.
David Lee,
Here.
Chandra Wilkerson.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present and we have a quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting. The next item is to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda, but I want to add an amendment, add something to it. I'm going to add that we discuss changing the meeting time of our meetings as long as we're doing the Zoom meeting live.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of changing the meeting time to 4:00 PM as long as we're doing the Zoom live.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bradley, can you make that time? I know you have meetings conferences you have to attend.
Yes.
Okay, I think Mr. Benton will second that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Here we have a motion by Councilman Leaf, second by Councilman Bennell to accept this agenda with the addition of changing the meeting time to 4 o'clock, and we'll discuss that later. Is any other discussion? Keisha?
Bennell,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes.
Let the record show that the motion carries unanimously. We have an agenda that has been adopted, and now we move to our public comments portion. Do we have any public comments that have questions or anything that is coming to us? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the minutes from the February 20th, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the minutes as written for the February the 20th, 2020 meeting.
I second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Carter and a second by Councilwoman Wilkerson. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bennell.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the February 2020 financial statement.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
I move we adopt the February 2020 financial statement.
A second.
We have a motion by Councilman Bentel and a second by Councilman Brown to adopt the February 2020 financial statement. We are open for discussion.
I'd like to make note that on page 3, under the police department, line item 216, radio expense, I think Miss Keisha hasn't got all of that straightened out yet, where the entire charge of $53,141 was charged to the police department, but it's supposed to be reimbursed out to the other departments that receive the radios. Public service, I think fire is okay, the radio in City Hall, water and sewer. So that amount expenditure for the police department will decrease once she gets all of those correct numbers.
That is a very good observation, and we have been working trying to find out what happened to that line item. We're also searching to make sure that the rebate went in on all of that. Chief Alfamontano was working on that at the time, and we didn't know if that was a portion of it also. So, but that is being checked into to get that corrected.
And we are going to take a hit on our sales tax revenue for our general fund because of our crisis that we're going through. Don't you all agree?
Oh, yes.
I'll agree to some, we'll start here for long, but now there was a lot of stuff sold in the stores right on the beginning. I mean, they cleaned Mike out, probably IGA out a couple of times. So,
Well, they may make up for the rest of them.
Okay, any other discussion on the financial statement? Ms. Keisha, it's up to you.
Carter,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
yes,
Brown,
Yes.
Leith,
yes,
Bennell.
yes,
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. We will now move into old business. We have second reading of ordinance 02-2020-1 is the budget amendment.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to pass on second reading ordinance 02-2020-1.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
second
White.
that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, for the second. We are open for discussion.
I would like to commend Keisha for the job well done on this budget amendment. This was her first, and I helped her just a small bit, so she did an excellent job.
Good
Okay,
job.
we would like to point out that in this amendment, that the amounts that are going to be going in for the pumps, we actually took that out of fund balance. The reason that I didn't take it out of the reserve account is we've already had another pump that's gone down, and when we get to the pump section later, I think it's down there for us to actually vote on for the pump. We wanted to keep that money in reserve, plus the fact the comptroller's office was told just less than a month ago that that was our depreciation money. So that is the purpose of it coming out of fund balance. So with that said, is there any other questions? And I might add that this budget amendment is something that the comptroller's office has asked us to do ahead of time. We've always done it after close of year, and Mr. Poole has helped us tremendously on that. But as you'll notice in your audit this year, I had to sign an affidavit to the comptroller's office that we would attempt to keep the budget amendments ahead of schedule instead of waiting to the end of the fiscal year. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Keisha, if you'll take over.
Brown,
Yes.
Leith,
yes,
Bennell,
yes,
Carter,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
yes,
But the record reflect that second reading of ordinance number 02-2020-1 of the budget amendment has passed. And I will be signing that for us to send in ASAP. We move now to new business. The first item is resolution R-03-2020-1. Which is an update resolution that is adopting the 2015 International Fire Codes.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number R-03-2020-1.
I second,
second,
yeah, I have a question. Mine says adopt the 2012. Do I have an older version, or what is my
Nope, that looks like a typo on my part. I'll fix it.
It was 2015. Okay, all right.
No, that's correct because it says we've already got 2012.
And we're going, okay,
desired
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Okay.
adopt the 2015.
It's
Okay.
correct.
thank you.
Okay, just for the record, Councilman Brown made that motion and Councilman Wilkerson seconded. Any other discussion? Ms. Keisha?
Bennell,
Yes,
Carter,
Yes,
Wilkerson,
yes,
Leith,
Yes,
Brown.
Yes.
Let the record show that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is Resolution R-03-2020-2. It is a resolution
Mr.
that is
Mayor,
dedicating and renaming Walnut Street. If it is okay, I'm going to read this resolution because we are not in the chambers, but it is to honor our fire chief, Mark Jenkins, with many, many years. I think it was, 35 years of service. So let me just read this real quick. Whereas the city of Westmoreland must approve the dedication and renaming of streets within the city, and whereas Mark Jenkins has volunteered his time to the volunteer fire department for 35 years, whereas the city of Westmoreland would like to recognize Chief Mark Jenkins by dedicating and renaming the section of North Walnut Street from Austin P Highway to Epperson Springs Road to Chief Jenkins Way. So that is the resolution. I will accept a motion on it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to pass resolution R-03-2020-2.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf and a second by Councilman Bendel to adopt resolution 03-2020-2. Is there any discussion? I know that probably at least a couple of you want to praise the chief on this monumental time.
Yes, I'll say Mark has been very dedicated to the city of Westmoreland as far as the volunteer fire department. And actually, I was going to defer this because I don't know if I don't think he knows about it yet. And I was going to defer it till we had meetings back up at the other building so he could be there. But anyway, it's no surprise now. So, but he has done a real good job. I've known Mark since he was just a small boy. We used to play together where we grew up in Bethpage, and he's always been an outstanding person.
so we're actually going to be rename it, not just dedicating it. And then from Epperson Springs Road to North First, it would remain North Walnut Street. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And there's no houses there to be worried about the address. It's just that one little section of street.
Mr. Bennell, you sent that information out, so I'm guessing that you did talk to the 911 folks about it.
I think Keisha, did you talk to him also, or?
Yes. And we just have to fill out this form and send in a copy of the resolution.
Right. I thought that's what they said. And you got the form attached here, so.
Yes.
Okay. With that, Ms. Keisha, I'll call for the vote.
Carter,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
yes,
Brown.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I am going to defer this next one till the family can be there.
Okay, so you do want to bypass, do you want to vote on it or do you want to totally defer it?
I want to just totally defer it till the family can be there with us at the meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion to defer R 032020-3?
Yes, that was my motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say, well, excuse me. Gotta call the roll, sorry.
Bennell,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
yes,
Brown,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the resolution is deferred until, I guess when you want to bring it back up,
Yeah.
Mr. Lee.
Don't know when that'll be, but maybe hopefully soon.
Next item on the agenda is to award the bid for water line extension for Pumping Station Road. That the low bid come in from Mofield Brothers Construction of Carthage, Tennessee. It was $39,850. This was discussed at our last work study. I have the other quotes if you want to hear those, but this is the one that was a low bid.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to accept the low bid and run the water line on that Pumping Station Road.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf and a second by Councilman Bentel to accept the bid from Mofield Brothers Construction for $39,850 to extend the water line on Pumping Station Road. Any discussion?
Mayor, I think Mr. Brown seconded that motion.
I was the second.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. Is there any other discussion? Ms. Keisha, if you'll call the roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
yes,
Bennell,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to update the fee schedule for the Planning Commission. We discussed this at the work study. I guess my question is, at this point, do we know if that was adopted by ordinance because it is a fee change? Because we do not have an ordinance prepared for it. It's just addressed as a fee schedule proposal. So Mr. Bradley, would that need to be put into an ordinance form?
He's gone to Hawaii.
Your volume.
No, I'm here. I was muted. Normally you do this for ordinance. I don't know how we've done it in the past. Do you know how the fee schedule that currently is in place was adopted?
All we've had that I've seen at City Hall was just the schedule that was at the recorder's office. But I've got to assume that somewhere back in history that was adopted by ordinance because it is a charge that we're charging citizens.
I would suggest that we treat this as first reading of the ordinance. Get me the list of charges and we'll make it into an ordinance form for second reading at our next meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to accept this as first reading.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf, a second by Councilman Bentel to accept on first reading. Ms. Keisha, I'm guessing that this ordinance would be ordinance 032020. Do you have an extra number to put on the end?
It would just be one.
Wouldn't that be 04, Mayor, instead of 03? This is April.
Well, it was on the March agenda, but
Okay.
yeah, we can do it either way you want to.
Do it as 04 since it is April and this is first reading. Let's just make it, I think it'll be clearer if we do it that way.
Okay.
Okay, so it's ordinance 04-2020-1. Now that we have an ordinance number and we have a motion and a second, do we have any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Keisha?
Leaf,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
yes,
Bennell,
Yes,
Carter.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously, and that will go on second reading for next month. Next item is the job description and salary for the chief of police.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt the job description for the chief of police and advertise the job per the little description on the front, and set the salary between 48 and 52,000, depending on their experience.
What was that amount again, Mr. Bendel? 48, 50?
48, 52.
52, okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilman Bennell, a second by Councilman Leaf to run the job description and advertise for police chief for the city of Westmoreland with the attachments that we have, and setting the pay scale at range from 48,000 to 52,000 per year. We are open for discussion.
I want to discuss the range of time that we're going to advertise for the job description or advertise for the position. Have we discussed the time limit?
I don't
I
think,
think before we had talked 30 days,
30 days? Okay.
I think.
I just wanted to make
I
sure.
think
that's
that
part of our
Andrew's
discussion.
correct. Mhm.
And we also discussed some of the different mediums that we could possibly use to advertise that with.
Right.
let me ask you this. When do we want to start advertising? I mean, in this pandemic we're in right now, I don't even know if we can get any applicants to fill anything out.
Yeah, that 30 days may be a little short of a window, like you say, with everything going on.
Actually, I would say with everything that is going on right now, you may want to just go with what we have in place with the interim chief. I mean, because honestly, at this point in time, you can't make arrangements if someone was flying in to interview or driving in to interview or you know, even, well, you'd have to do at this point virtual interviews.
Mr. Mayor, if we extended the advertising to 60 days, and then we'd have time to review, after the 60 days, we'd have to review the applicants and then decide who we were going to interview. By this time, we're probably another 30 days out. So that would almost be a total of 90 days before we could even interview anyone. Am I thinking correct on this?
I believe you are, because to interview, you would have to, let the public know that you're going to be interviewing, and it could be quite a ways out, honestly. We don't know how this pandemic is going to continue to affect us.
Oh,
Right.
really? Yep.
I think we should start advertising now. That way we could get a better selection and then extend it for 60 days. And then it might put us on to like I said, 90 days before we actually did any interviewing.
That would put us more into the summertime. So that
Right.
things will calm down by then.
Mhm.
Well, everything will have to be done by email on the start, or they won't be able to come and pick up a job description or an application. Keisha could probably email them a job description.
Yes. And an application as well.
She could lay one on the back desk. If they wanted to come in, you could lay it on back in the back or something. You could work out some agreement, but they should all have email.
But we can do interviews by Zoom, by virtual.
Yes, I was just going to mention that, Chandra.
Okay, so how long do we want to actually run the advertisement? But we'll leave the open date or closing date, I guess is the way you would say it, for May, maybe end of May, last day.
Yes, that's about 60
That
days.
sounds good.
Is that okay with everyone?
The
That's
end
With
of,
me, yes.
Yeah, it's okay with me.
the end of May, Mr. Mayor, is that what you said?
60 days, whatever the last day of May is there.
Okay.
May 31st. Make it May 31st. That's simple.
Okay, I was thinking maybe June the 1st, but I think May 31st is closing date. Do you want to put a time on it at 4 p.m. closing that date?
I think
I'm
that's
good with
Okay. Range will be 48 to 52,000, and the closing time will be May 31st.
That's on a Sunday, if that makes a difference.
Well, they make it June
If
1st.
they have the email in and have the package in.
John said just do it the first. That's on Monday.
Just make it June 1st. That's simpler. Yeah.
Okay, June the 1st. 4:00 p.m. closing.
But we're not going to run the advertisement every week in the newspaper for that length of time, are we?
No, we just will leave the job open to accept applications and resumes for that amount of time.
Okay. Well, how long do we want to advertise in newspapers? That would be costly. Is there a fee to the Indeed, Keisha, when we advertise with them?
There is not.
Okay. And I'd say
Town and country would be good too.
Yes. What, a couple of weeks in the newspapers and then town and country for a while, and
Yeah, we should be able to get the word out.
Frida, you were froze. I don't know if you can hear me now, but you froze.
I think we lost Miss Frida there temporarily.
Maybe she'll come back in a minute.
She may be able to hear us.
Hey, Mayor, what about that newspaper we get? I think it's once a month. Is any charge to run in that paper?
I don't know if there's a charge for that or not. That's one, I called it Town and Country. I think it's
Oh,
what,
okay.
city, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the title of the publication is. I just
Oh.
started reading it. So,
Okay.
With the rollout of the new website, I would recommend that on that website that we have a section, and we may already have it. I may have not seen it. Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong. A section that mentions careers with the city, and in that we can have the job description posted, and then we can utilize the website and this section, this certain page, to continue to advertise for any future employment positions with the city.
I'm
Okay.
back now, folks. I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
Doug, there's not a section that deals with careers. Not to say that he couldn't add one, but it's not.
Well, that's free advertisement. It's an easy way to have it running for the 60 days, or in the case of any other future job descriptions that we post, it's easy to push out. Once you advertise with Facebook or the other pieces that we were talking about, our website can continue to have that posting until we decide to take it down. It's very simple.
Right.
So I highly recommend that I know we're getting off a little bit, but this may be one of our first job descriptions that we could throw up there and set something for future job descriptions.
that is correct. So all points well taken. Any other discussion before I call for the vote? Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes,
Carter,
he has froze again.
She may need to just call in. She's back. Oh, she left the meeting.
Oh, she left.
She's probably trying to hook back up.
She'll be back.
There she is.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Evidently, my Wi-Fi keeps going in and out.
Okay, how would you like to cast your vote on the job description and pay scale? Or
Are
pay-
we voting now?
Yes,
Yes.
it was your vote when you went
Here's
out.
a vote.
Did we change anything other than what we were discussing there?
No,
Okay, yes.
all right, Bennell,
Yes.
okay, I think that's everyone, so I'll call the vote unanimous, and that is passed. The next item on the agenda is the sewer plant construction contract with GMC. Okay, we discussed this at quite length at the last work study. This is the last piece that we have before we move ahead with GMC. The corrections have been placed in it that Ms. Carter asked for last time, and those questions were answered. Mr. Sanford sent out a email to everyone, and Mr. Bradley, I think, has reviewed those contracts and talked to Mr. Perry today, and Mr. Perry is on with us on the meeting to answer any questions. But to start with, I'll entertain a motion to get going.
I'll make a motion to enter into contract with GMC on the sewer plant construction.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf, a second by Councilman Brown to enter into the construction contract with GMC for construction of the Westmoreland wastewater treatment plant.
Mr. Mayor, I got some thoughts on that.
What's your thoughts, Ms. Mendel?
Well, this cost has continued to rise. I don't remember the exact cost when we started, and it's getting to a point I'm not sure our citizens or in the city is going to be able to afford a brand spanking new sewer plant. I'm so concerned, no disrespect to GMC, but I did speak to Brian Griffin today, and Mr. Heathcote, he got on the line as well. And I told him my concerns about the costs. And this has been thrown around, but we've always wanted, we've been down this path. I asked him, I said, could the plant we have be retrofitted? And he said yes. Probably save $3 million, $4 million. It'd extend the life of the old sewer plant we got 20 years. These are just off the top of his head. And I said, well, we're in the 11th hour of this thing, of this contract here. And I don't know all the ramifications, but I'm just concerned. I asked you the question last time, what was going to cost our citizens? And I believe your response was, you didn't know until we got the contract signed. And I remember the Affordable Care Act that they passed in Washington. They said, well, let's pass it and then we'll find out what it says later. I know we need a sewer plant. We need it yesterday. I know we're under scrutiny, but I'm just concerned about the hunk of money that we may have to, that we're going to spend. So that's my concern. And I think 2 weeks, I told them we had another meeting in 2 weeks, and they said they could come up with something in 2 weeks. I know they're familiar with the plant, and so I just put that on the table. I'm concerned about this cost when it went from 1.9 million, and the last numbers I've heard is in the 7 million range. So GMC can comment on it, or any council member. That's just some of my thoughts. I'm concerned.
Okay, let me address some of them. You are correct. 5 years ago, when I started on this project, it was 1.9 million. And then it went to, I think, 2.3 million, 2.6, 2.9. It continually is going up. We have a 42-year-old plant, and there's not much there to rehab. We're 5 years ago when we started this project, of course, you weren't even on the council at that time.
Right.
We met with the state, with TDEC, with officials, EPA kind of guiding us. There were two reasons for this. One was not only trying to make sure that we're going to meet the nutrient levels and all that we are distributing out of the stream, but also we were trying to get that plant away from the ball field. And that was going to kind of help a little bit of all of it. A lot of the last part of the growth and what it's going to cost is the cost to tear the plant down and get rid of it. Because obviously you can't leave it standing there. As you've heard me say many times, it'll be a mosquito infested nightmare that will be there. And you know yourself, from when it was cleaned a couple years ago, what the odor is still going to be even after it's cleaned. And it will have to be probably cleaned and disinfected before it's demolished. The steel tank, if you're talking about rehab, the steel tank would totally have to go. What we have now is we're barely limping along and meeting our requirements with 2 tanks. I'm afraid, of course, you'd have to consult with the engineers on this, but I don't think that we will be able to survive and them I mean, I don't know if they'll sign off on it or not, is what I'm saying. We're backed in the corner, and this was no doubt the best route for us to take. The cost of rehabbing will probably not be that much in the long run of the cost of the new plant. If it was 2 million, a million of that in itself, 1.1, and Mr. Perry is on with us, he can comment on it. But I think 1.1 million of that is just tearing down and destructing and removing, demolishing the old plant. I mean, the ball was in y'all's court. Mr. Bradley can comment. We do have pending consent orders from the EPA. So, you know, if you're looking at the amount of difference there, but the cost from rehab to building a new one, you're probably not talking over $8 or $10 a month, maybe $15 a month difference. If I have a chance here, I'll try to run some of these numbers real quick, but I'm thinking that it's only going to be $8 to $10 a month difference in what it would be if we can get the revolving loan fund to go ahead and stretch it out to a 30-year loan instead of a 20-year loan.
Yeah, that revolving loan, is that mostly in the $500,000 range? Is that correct?
No, you're thinking community development block grant.
Okay.
The revolving loan fund is set up. It is money for drinking water and wastewater. It's actually a loan that is money that is funneled down from the EPA, and TDEC handles that for us in the state of Tennessee, and they oversee all of that.
And what kind of money do they? What could we expect to get from them?
I am expecting that they would finance every bit of it. We were looking at 10% loan forgiveness. They don't call it a grant anymore. So that would be on 6 million would be 600,000. So Mr. Sanford actually told me the last time we talked that there was a good possibility that because of the dire need of Westmoreland for a treatment plant, that the loan could even be, or the amount could be granted even more funds for loan forgiveness. Mr. Perry, if you're on with us, you may want to address some of this stuff that we're talking about, because you will be handling the bulk of it as a project manager and getting us through with a revolving loan fund.
I'd be happy to. I will address the first question about the rate change that we talked about at the last work session. At the time, we didn't know, and we don't know now. And what happens is once the project is bid, then SRF, Ms. Anna Fenwick, will do another audit and create or determine what the rate adjustment would be. That'd be based on the cost of the project. Once the rate adjustment is determined, then it's likely that you'll have a public meeting to discuss the rate change. So that's the answer to the first question Mr. Bennell asked. As far as retrofitting the project, Bryant worked for GMC 5 years ago when this project came up. And based on the consent order, in my recommendation, my opinion, is that a new plant is warranted and needed. You can retrofit the plant. I wouldn't recommend it, but that is certainly an option. As far as the loan amount, Joe was right, Mr. Sam was right. Sometimes SRF, based on the audit of the city and based off the financial situation of the city, they have in the past granted more than a 10% loan forgiveness. That's not a promise, but that is something that has happened in the past. So the project going forward, the path going forward is once the contract for construction admin is approved and executed, that goes to SRF. That kicks the ball rolling quickly downhill to get the funding in place. The audit occurs, the rate change is determined, that is presented to the public, and then the loan amount and the amount of loan forgiveness or grant is determined.
I always tend to go back and think of what Councilman Leaf said about when we were looking at buying a used dump truck, and the decision was made to buy the new one. With a rehab, we may be just basically, we're going to have an old plant. We will still have an old plant. It's like an old house and a new house. Obviously, there's differences in it, but I think about what David said that night. We don't want somebody else's junk, and right now that plant is our junk, to be honest.
Well, I'm not trying to throw cold water on it. I'm just trying to be a good councilman and try to think it through and to revisit some of the things that we're already talking about. I would assume that would the comptroller look at this at some point in time, or is this strictly our decision to sign the contract and take the bids and move forward?
Our contract for planning and design takes it through the bidding stage. I'll let Mr. Perry address any of that, but this contract that we are voting on tonight is the construction contract, and it's my understanding that everything is on hold now until this contract is signed.
Right. And I'll ask the question again. Once you sign the contract, I mean, is there a bailout, or are we basically on the hook regardless of what it costs our citizens? Mr. Perry, can you answer that?
The contract that's being voted on, or at least considered tonight, is for the construction admin and the inspection of the construction. If the loan doesn't come through, the funding doesn't come through, then in my understanding is the contract is no longer valid because there won't be anything to inspect. It's not for the construction of the project, it's for the construction admin and inspection of the project.
Okay.
Mr. Bell, the contract is contingent on funding. If there's no funding, then there's no contract.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad we had this discussion. I needed that to make me feel better about it.
Well, in my honest opinion, I don't think there will be a problem with the revolving loan fund wanting to give the funding, because the need is there, and that's what the EPA has them in place for, is to, it's all about the health and safety. Of course, we kind of see where we are today on something like that, but this is going to be something. I asked Joe the question before he left GMC. Where would we be if we don't pass this, or if we don't build this plant? And the consensus that he had was that the state will step in and you will have a plant. So
okay,
I don't know if that's if that's a correct assumption or not. Mr. Perry might could comment on that, but I know right now we have Mr. Bradley, was that last consent order 200,000?
I've forgotten the amount, but it was a lot of money. I know that, Mayor.
If we don't move ahead on this, then TDEC Enforcement Division is going to step in.
okay,
Yes, this is Mr. Perry, and you're right, Mr. Mayor. That is what TDEC would do. I also wanted to let you know a couple other pieces have fallen into place. TDEC has approved the plan of operations. Emily Royal has the plan submitted to EDC, and the TDEC has also sent no comment letter based on their review of the plans and the specs. So a lot of the approvals are now falling into place, and over the last few weeks, which is a good thing. It's the project, TDEC understands the need for it. I'm with the mayor. My opinion is the funding will be in place.
Good, good.
Well, I've got the same concerns that Tony's got, is putting that much money on the citizens of Westmoreland when they're already in a crisis and low income people. But appreciate Jerry's remarks about the new. I do believe in buying new instead of used. So, but it just scares me voting on this amount of money. But I'm ready to move forward.
Well, it sounds like we're over a barrel. I mean, we've got to do this.
Okay, I don't think we have a choice.
No.
It's like Mr. Mayor said, we have a 42, is that right, Mr. Mayor? 42-year-old?
Yes,
sewer
it's
plant?
built in 78.
I mean, it's sorely outdated, and I think the time is now for us to take action, so that we don't get in trouble with the state.
Right.
Mayor, has anybody run any numbers based on, let's say, $7 million? Of course, I know that would be spread out over the 30 years you spoke of, but has anybody run any numbers that might reflect the monthly increase for the bill, the sewer bill for our residents?
The revolving loan fund did run the numbers the first time, and then after it fell through because our plans didn't make it to the correct place and didn't get approved. They have not run any numbers for me as of this time, but you can figure that you have 889 sewer customers right now, and they are going to have to burden that cost.
But when they ran the numbers, but it was on a lower amount, wasn't it?
It was on a lower amount, yes.
A much lower.
It's been so long, Ms. Frida, I can't even recall the numbers. But we're at the point now that we are going to build it, or they're going to build it for us.
Yep. I'm ready for the question.
Ms. Keisha, if you'll call the vote, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Leith,
Yes.
Bennell.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Yes, Mr. Bradley and Mr. Perry, I'll get that revised contract and get it signed and to you so you can get it to TDEC, and we'll get this thing moving.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll keep you updated as we have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry. Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Next item on the agenda is extra pay for Chris Carter while mentoring and helping Aaron Sizemore for the next, I believe that was for 6 months that Aaron had asked for that. So you have that from the work study. So I'll wait for a motion.
We talked about it at the work study, so I'll make the motion to pay Chris Carter the extra pay while helping Aaron Sizemore. What, $40 a week?
$40, yeah.
He was requesting 50. I've got the memo here in front of me.
I think we said we was going to cut it to 40 in our work study.
Let's get a
Okay.
second first.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. The motion by Councilman Leaf, the second by Councilman Bentel. We'll discuss the amount now.
If I remember right, I thought we discussed it at the work study at $40, but
Yeah, basically, on on a 40-hour week, it was coming to $1 hour more. Mr. Sizemore did ask for 50 originally, but he also made mention when he took the job, it was $1 an hour extra for him, and we discussed about how we thought that would probably be appropriate for Chris also. So just ever how that you want to make it. If it's $1 an hour, I'll write that into the motion here, and
I think my motion was $40 a week.
okay, $40 a week for the 6-month period.
Regardless of how many hours he works, correct?
Yes,
It's
based
only
on
40.
40.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, is he still getting that he's not still getting that $100 per week, is he?
No,
Additional?
he hasn't received that since last May when Mr. Sizemore came on.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, it needs to
still
state
did here.
$40 it needs to state $40 a week, not $1 an hour, because he works a lot of overtime. And that work wouldn't be relating to training Aaron. So I'd say the $40, flat 40 for a week.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not so much training Aaron, it's just helping out with all the tremendous load of paperwork that is being added on. And since the pandemic, there's several more pages that are coming on board to fill out. I'm going to guess right now it's weekly. It may be daily. So it's a tough job. There's no doubt about it. Any other discussion? Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes,
Carter,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is to reclassify Ray Alfamontano from a full-time person to a part-time person. He actually asked that be reworded from part-time to an investigator position. I asked the Chief Flat. I said, well, you know, we'll make the position, but you put him in what job that you want him to be, and you're the interim chief right now. So whoever makes the motion, you might want to consider that.
Well, we have his letter of resignation as the chief. So I move that we accept his resignation as the chief. And if I could put it all in one motion, that we reclassify him to a full-time, to a part-time position, and Chief Flat assign him where he needs to.
A second.
Okay, we have the motion by Councilman Bennell, the second by Councilwoman Wilkerson. Is that correct?
yes.
To accept the resignation of Chief Alfamontano and reclassify him from a full-time position to a part-time position, with Chief Flat being able to put him where he needs him to be in a position there. Other discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Keisha?
Brown,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes,
Carter,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to purchase a new pump for the basement and sewer station of 1. That comes at a cost of approximately, I believe the quote on it was $33,300. Aaron was going to asked tonight was it be possible that you could get him 2 of those and approve them. And I told him that that was something that would have to be discussed. We'll get one to start with, and that was the one that was in your budget amendment that you passed earlier. So that we can get that one on the way.
I'll make the motion to buy a new pump
Second.
for sewer station 1.
Have a motion by Councilman Leaf, a second by Councilwoman Carter to purchase a pump for sewer lift station number 1. Other discussion?
How long does it take to get one of those pumps, Mayor?
It's actually already been ordered because it was an emergency situation. We don't have a day of delivery on it, but it is in the United States. It wasn't one we had to order from Germany, but we really don't know how long this pandemic is going to affect us. We're looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks on it.
Mr. Mayor, can you elaborate on why Aaron wanted to look at the purchase of 2 of those pumps?
Okay, there are 2 pumps. We have a primary pump and a secondary pump. And the primary pump went, it completely went out. It locked up, burn up, ever how you want to phrase it. And we went on the secondary pump as a backup. The secondary pump is in bad shape. So it is limping along right now, but it is getting us by. We were very fearful of the rains that came in the last couple of weeks as to how it would hold up. But the guys have been working on it and keeping it maintained. So it has made it through, but whether or not you want to go ahead and give the okay to put a second order in for a second pump, I will leave that to the council.
Are these pumps interchangeable? Is the primary and the secondary the same pump, or are they different?
In 2 stations, they are identical. The other 2 stations are not. So they, you know, and that's what's happened now. They have actually gone to another station to take one from another station to bring it over. But all of these pumps are working so hard, especially with all the infiltration that we have in our system, that they're working triple time. Most pumps should probably only run. I remember. No, excuse me. That was the vacuum pumps that I was told they were supposed to run like 15 minutes out of every hour, and they're running solid hour after hour. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It did. All this equipment is old. I mean, and it could be, we could have another motor or motors go out, and 6 to 8 weeks is a long time to wait. We could get in real trouble. And I don't know which ones he considers. He says the secondary is bad, but I don't know what he's got at the other pumping stations that he would consider. Would we need to buy one for another station or this one? I don't know.
That'd be my question. Do we need to be looking at just the station's pumps, or do we need to look at what the other ones may need?
Well, we have 4 lift stations, and there's anywhere from 4 to 6 pumps, I think, in each lift station. So it's a lot of work that is happening. Of course, we have applied for the CDBG grant to help us out on lift station number 2. And I've been told there's a good chance that we will receive that grant. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And but with us being this close, of course, now our next budget year is almost we don't even know how to approach the next year at this point. All the numbers that we had are from what I'm hearing from most cities, they're just throwing all their numbers out and starting over and reducing everything by several percentage. So the comptroller's office and it is putting out memos just about daily, and I'm sure Keisha is receiving all of those, and I think Ms. Carter is receiving them also. It's just a tremendous burden that's going to be on us with what we have coming in. So, and water and sewer is not going to be any different.
Do we have the money to get 2 pumps?
Well, let me preface this by a little later on in the agenda. We're going to talk about what's happening with utility payments, and if that comes into play and they put a freeze on not being able, if there's a freeze on that people are not going to have to be required to pay their utility bills, then what are we going to have in 6 months from now?
Well, maybe the federal government step in there and say we've been affected by this virus, in which we really have, and help us out. Well, it's just a hope.
Very true.
Sound like
Is
we
the
need,
secondary pump, excuse me, is the secondary pump the same price as the primary?
Yes. It is an identical pump.
sound like we need to pass on this one and then talk about another one on down in the agenda. Just my thoughts.
Anyone else have a comment? Well, we're voting on one pump, and I might mention also, I said earlier about we were trying to retain some of the reserve amount that I had taken the pump amount out of the fund balance. We lost another pump at Ridgecrest, so that was an additional roughly $6,000 that Aaron had to put a replacement in there. So that one, same situation right now. So I'll call for the vote. Ms. Keisha?
Bennell,
Yes,
Leith,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously to purchase for one pump. The next item on the agenda is the beer permit application for TriStar Energy. I'll wait for a motion, then we'll discuss it.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor, to pass the beer permit for TriStar Energy LLC.
I'll second.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf and a second by Councilman Bentel to pass is the beer permit for TriStar Energy. We're open for discussion. You received the background information and the TBI report. So that is already in current operation. They're just changing. I'm guessing that is just management of that facility, because the owner is still listed as the same owner as before. So
don't know,
Other
if it
comments?
I don't know if it makes any difference, Mr. Mayor, but Doug seconded, Tony didn't.
Oh,
That
okay,
makes it
thank
different
you.
for the record.
Sure, appreciate that.
I think Miss Frida and I chimed in just about the same time.
At the
So
same time.
Go ahead, Doug. It'll be fine.
Okay, so the motion was by Councilman Leaf and the second was by Councilman Brown. Excuse me on that.
Mr. Mayor, I think if you'll look into the body of the permit after the very first paragraph, to whom it may concern, I think this TriStar Energy proposed transaction to acquire the convenience store. So I think it's new ownership. That's the way I read it. I may be wrong.
Okay, I may have just been reading the permit wrong on the next page, page 6. I was looking at item number 9.
That's the property owner.
Okay,
This is the Sudden Service itself as far as the service station.
okay, but the one requesting it is TriStar Energy LLC, and I'm trying to get back here to the gentleman's name, but it's the CEO, but the background information is in on.
On the intro letter, it mentions a bill of sale, so it does sound like it has changed hands.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was said, so it may be a new lease agreement with another company, but I just saw that where it said the property owner remained the same, so. Okay, any other questions? Ms. Keisha, we'll call for the vote.
My name, yes, I can't hear you.
Wilkerson,
Yes,
Bennell,
Yes.
Brown,
yes,
Leaf.
Yes,
I don't think you said Carter.
I don't think so either.
I thought I said you first.
Oh, I couldn't, you cut out and I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is to bring to the floor to discuss the tornado siren programming. We discussed that at the work study, so I'll entertain a motion.
There's some detail to it. I guess we just need a motion first. But the reasoning for making the motion is the detail on this.
Okay, if I can get a motion in a second, we'll get it open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we trade out the equipment of Comtech that's in the police department as an even swap for a new console for the siren, the tornado siren.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Carter and a second by Councilman Bentel on the tornado siren programming to trade out the equipment with that was Comtech.
Yes.
And basically, we just want to get the thing where it's operating.
I have some pictures here. Mr. Rich, the gentleman that installed, let me tell you about it first. the gentleman that installed the first console, he didn't install the siren, he programmed the siren in order for it to be operable. Okay. Now that dispatch has been consolidated, we have, and our old console at the police department has went out. So we have no way other than going up manually to the tornado siren and pushing a button to sound the siren. Okay, Sadina and Chief Flatt has been talking, and I've got emails here to back it up, to Mr. Rich. And they sent him pictures of the equipment that's at the police department now, that once this, the new radios, when they go into effect and is being using, we no longer need this equipment. So the contact, Mr. Rich said that they would be willing to put in the new console and program it if we would swap out this equipment to them. And it's this contact rack, I don't know if you can see it, that these radios are setting in. It would not be the radios themselves, just the rack and the console that it's in. And Mr. Chief Flatt, since this equipment did belong to the city, he wanted the council to approve making the even swap without having to trade any money. Am I clear as mud?
You're clear.
I'm good.
I think you did a good job.
I'm good with it. We gotta get that thing working.
Right.
And the next step is educate the public. We can put it in, but we've got to educate the public what it means. I've had a problem with that for years.
Okay, if that's all the discussion, we'll call for the vote.
Leaf,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes,
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is to hire two full-time police officers. One of the officers that we were considering, the background check did not come back, so he is not being recommended by Chief Flatt, but we do have Officer Zachary Culberson that is on the agenda to be hired.
I'll make the motion to hire Officer Culberson.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Leaf and a second by Councilman Bentel to hire Zachary Culberson as a full-time police officer for Westmoreland PD. Is there any discussion?
That was actually Doug that seconded it.
Oh, okay.
it's the B thing, I think.
Must be, sorry. Second by Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes,
Brown,
Yes.
Leaf.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item, I placed it on there as I made an executive decision when the coronavirus first came out, and it was time for utilities to be shut off for late payment. There was a lot of discussion about it. The governor, a couple of days after that, which would have been about the 25th, asked the Tennessee Public Utilities Commission to waiver cutoffs and to waiver late fees. I have not received anything official that has come in where it has told me that has passed. Mr. Bradley was going to see if maybe he could find out some information that may have even happened on the federal level.
Mayor, I checked. I have not found that yet. I mean, there are some rules about no evictions, no foreclosures. The Tennessee Supreme Court put out a rule about those things, but I have not seen anything about utility payments. So it's really something the council ought to vote on.
Okay. What I did is defer it until April the 23rd, which is the next cutoff date. Keisha might can give some new numbers, but as of the 23rd of March, we had roughly 80 people that were on the cutoff list. Several of those paid at the last minute, but we had many of it didn't, and many of those folks had never been late on a bill. So this is definitely affecting a lot of folks. So I'll entertain a motion as to how the council wants to move forward with that, as you are our Utilities Commission.
I'll make the motion to defer cutoffs and late fees on the utility bills. I'm trying to think of a cutoff of a time here. To the time that you set, Mr. Mayor, the April 24th, and then we'll go from there. We'll revisit it.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Leaf, a second by Councilwoman Wilkerson to continue the deferral till April the 24th. I guess we'll see if there's anything that comes down from the federal government or our state government to proceed on that. And if, John, if you would kind of help me watch those documents, I would appreciate it. So is there other discussion?
Do we have maybe you don't need one, but I think people need to understand that we're just deferring their water bill. It's not free. And I don't know what you tell them or what they got in place, but just something so we have a protocol and we know what we're doing.
The whole idea is that the bill is going to continue to accrue the charges. It's just the city is agreeing that for this short period of time that you will not cut off someone for non-payment and will not charge late fees for this like 3-week period. They still owe the water bill, but it's
Right.
just to show that deferral to hopefully where people can get a chance to pay their bills. And there's supposed to be some relief coming in from the federal government the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll
Right.
see.
They can even pay just a little, like if they'll pay some on it to show they're trying, but that we understand that.
And that's pretty much where we stand at this point. We had asked that they contact us. It behooved me how many people that could not pick up the phone and at least call and say, I'm going to be late, or can I pay an amount on it? But we did have a lot of citizens that did call. So we will we'll see how this proceeds in the future and see what the Tennessee Public Utilities Commission and or the federal government says about it. So with
Mr.
that,
Mayor,
yes, ma'am.
out of those 80, approximately 80 that you spoke of on the cutoff list, was what was the percentage of those that's, I know on a monthly basis, we have the same ones over and over. We've discussed that before. What, do you know the percentage of the 80 that was the ones that reoccurs every month?
Probably, Keisha, would you say 30 to 35?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more than that, but
It's probably close to that, and you're correct, Ms. Freda. There are always folks that that never pay every month and always come in late or something happens. But with this, like I said, Meredith pulled a lot of the records, and several people had never been late on a payment. So you know
Right.
that there's problems and people are hurting.
Right.
Hopefully some of this relief money will be here. I think it's supposed to start arriving April the 6th. So hopefully people will decide that they want to pay their water bill so that it doesn't mount up so bad rather than go buy a new iPhone.
Yeah, me too.
Just being honest, folks.
I know.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments,
I've got a question.
yes, sir.
Are we still going to be sending out paper bills this month?
They've already gone out, and it's like any other month. If the bill has been paid, the new amount will be reflected on the bill. Otherwise, the amount that didn't get paid where it wasn't cut off will be reflected on that also. Now, I don't know if we have the capability or not to have not printed the late charges in with it. So Keisha or Frida, either one may be able to speak to that a little bit more. If computer software we have now, but it wasn't our intention to charge late fees on anything in the future here, but I don't know that our computer will actually do it when it prints the bill.
I think when it prints a bill, it automatically prints it, but then our citizens can be told that when they actually come in and pay it, that we will waive that fee. But I think the software, you're right, we'll go ahead and print it on there. I don't think she has a capability of telling it not to print late fees.
Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Any other questions? Ms. Keisha, if you'll call the vote, please.
Bennell,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item that we have, and the last item on this agenda, is changing the meeting time while we're doing the Zoom conferences by virtual, that we set the meeting time at 4:00 p.m.
I'll so move that motion.
Second.
Mr. Bradley, do we need to put any kind of a notice in the paper that that's what we're doing, means this is a change, even though it's just temporary?
Well, you got an ordinance that sets the meetings. It's the third Thursday in each month at 7 p.m. So really the simplest way to do it is if you just call a special meeting on the third Thursday at 4 p.m. and send out a notice of cancellation of the 7 o'clock meeting. That way you don't have to amend any ordinances, and whenever this is over, everything will still go back to the same as it was.
Okay. Same thing on any work study sections that we do, same procedure?
Yes, it'd be the same thing. Otherwise, we need to change an ordinance, and that takes 2 readings, and I understand that's not the goal here.
Right, right.
Now, everybody can do it, right? I mean, it's nothing can keep anybody from doing it.
No, I don't know of any. Okay, any other discussion?
Well, just a comment, there's going to be some budget meetings going to be starting pretty soon. So just, I guess we'll have to use Zoom for that also.
Very good. Ms. Keisha?
Carter,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. That is all the items on our agenda. So the regular rescheduled meeting of the Westmoreland City Council has now officially ended. We appreciate everyone that has joined us, and council members, we're going to go into a short emergency work study session right now. We want to be cognizant that Miss Tina is running all the controls there, and we don't want to keep her too late, but anything that's an emergency that you want to discuss, we're in work study session now.
Point of order, Mayor. Did you want this to continue on the live stream?
Yes, please.
Let's see. I know we're in a bad situation, and I know that Public Works is shorthanded, but our city ditches are just full of trash. And I was wondering if there's any way, maybe hire school kids or somebody or part-time to pick up this, go through, help pick this up and clean up.
It's a good point, but right now with the we moved from the safer at home
That's
to
right.
the stay-at-home order.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I'm not even sure now without reading. Of course, I think that while we've been in session here tonight, that the executive order has come out. I'm not even sure that we're going to be able to have the luxuries that we've had for the past few days.
Yeah. So I take that off the table.
Okay, anyone else?
I'll just give you a quick update on the city website. I sent you a link where you could look at it. I think some of y'all have been through that and got some suggestions for Shadow. Let's try to get that done by the end of the day tomorrow, and we'll get it to Shadow so we can get this thing done. My only concern, I went back and looked at my emails with Shadow back in April, and he assured me that our webpage would be look as good as our sister cities with pictures and moving and things like that. He even mentioned, which I'm not a computer person, but it would have a image carousel. Well, you know, you've looked at it and it's strictly a red spot on the page. So I'm not happy with what he's done for the first page. The content is good. I've been through the content and he's got 98% of it there. I just don't think it's not very attractive when you first log into it. To get y'all's opinion, or we'll just, and I have heard what Doug mentioned tonight, adding something about careers. And I had thought it really, and I think he and I might have discussed that, like announcements or like these executive orders coming out that are hot items, that we could put them on that page where people could see what's happening right then. And so I'll wait for y'all's input.
So the one question, well, a couple of things is that, is he going to be the ongoing administrator for the webpage?
No.
Okay. I know we talked about it and I don't recall what we came to a conclusion with. Who would be the on-site administrator because any website is a living website. It should be continuing to evolve and to suit the needs of whoever is running the website. So do we talk about who would be that administrator?
Well, just a thought. Sedina does an excellent job with the police Facebook page, not the website. I would assume that Keisha would be the primary, and if Sedina, I actually talked to her a little bit, I think she would be she might be the backup, but I can't make that decision for y'all. Mr. Smith, he will, we pay him $30 a month to do some of the background work to make sure whatever's operating in the background continues to operate. But after he turns it over to us, he would help us but it's $80 an hour with a 15 minutes costs you $80 like an hour.
I'm sure we could give him plenty to fill the hour up.
Yeah, we could always make a list, you know.
The only thing that I noticed that, of course, you had lots of comments from the other members about the site. The only thing, and I may have just looked over it, I didn't see anything for the planning and zoning or board of appeals for their minutes and things, and it may have been in a section I just didn't look at. So
Yeah, they're not up to date. The IDB is not current. The city council's minutes are not there. It looks like we were doing them annually. It would seem to me like once we get this new webpage, that ought to be a monthly update where you update the IDB and the city and the planning and zoning at one sitting. Just my thoughts.
well, and I agree with that. It should be something because if people are looking at that, then they are obviously interested in what you have, not something that was from 4 or 5 years ago. So
Yeah.
I know that there's probably lots of holes in the minutes, but we've really tried hard for the last year to make sure that those holes are plugged and all minutes are available. So that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Tony, I think the reason that it showed like for a whole year, there wasn't any put on there, period. And someone went in and submitted them all at one time, and that's why they put the whole year in one item, one folder. But yes, it needs to be done on a monthly basis. After they're signed off by the mayor, it needs to be put in on the website.
Well, he agreed once he turned it over to us that he would train somebody to manage the site.
Okay, so it sounds like we're moving on it. What else do we have to discuss tonight?
Mayor, if I will, for just a second, I know this is probably at the bottom of our priority list. And I just want to get some clarification on how to move forward with it, because this is new territory for me. And last month when we talked about at our work study, I mentioned investigative leaves for looking at moving that into our policy and procedures manual. And so going forward, well, let me back up. I took a piece of information from the policy and procedures manual from Portland, if we all recall that. And they did an excellent job of mentioning 2 types of investigative leaves for employees in the event that they were investigated for some specific reason. And I believe this was created at the city of Portland by John, was it Grubbs? Is that correct?
Right.
Mhm.
And so looking at this, and I know that I gave everybody a copy, and I don't know if you got time to look at it or had an opportunity to look at it, but I wanted to know what would be moving forward. How do we put that piece into the policy and procedures manual? I know that Chandra and I came on board the last time we were discussing some changes to the policy and procedures manual, and I don't think I've seen it since. So I don't know the next step other than I know we would have to vote on it, but is it in a resolution or is it an ordinance, or someone can help me out with that question?
It's an ordinance.
Okay. So I guess what I would want to do is, I know Mr. Bradley has not got a chance to see it. So Mr. Bradley, can I go ahead and just send that to you and let you take a look at what I'm thinking that would work for our city?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, I also represent Portland, so send that on to me and we can put it on the next agenda.
Okay. Did anybody have any comments or any further direction that we want to go with looking at this this section of the investigative leaves and the policy and procedures manual?
So you will send us a copy that you send Mr. Bradley, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the copy that you gave us last, it's been so long, work study, I guess?
It was, Miss Frida. It was it was actually the exact word for word document from the city of Portland's policy. and
Okay.
procedures manual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to propose a new written policy and procedures piece on investigative leaves that hopefully fits the needs for Westmoreland. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just glancing at it here, and I've read over some of it. It contradicts the charter. Some of it does. So in order to make these changes in our policy procedure, the charter would have to be changed. Because that's what Mr. Grubbs advised us when we were doing our policy and procedure manual updates, said that the charter superseded it. So I'm not saying I disagree with your recommendation here, the same as Portland has it, but the charter states differently. So we're gonna have to take a look at that.
I would suggest that I take a look at the proposed amendment and I will get together with Mr. Grubbs. You know, Mr. Grubbs helped write Westmoreland's policies and procedures manual when he was still with MTAS. And then
Right.
he took the job with Portland. So he's very familiar with Westmoreland's rules and the charter. And I would be happy to discuss that with him in light of Mr. Brown's proposed amendment. We'll reconcile it as best we can.
Right. And we need to do it quickly too, because we've had 2 cases here and we were up in the air on should it be with pay or without pay. So something's
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
have to be put in writing. I agree with Mr. Brown totally.
I'll send that to you, John, in the next couple of days. Is that okay?
That'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Okay, other items? I guess we need
Did we-
to,
I'm sorry, and we might have, I may be just having a mental block here. Did we ever settle on the building and code services if we were going to go with option 1, or was you going to check to see how long Mr. Mills would continue as we're doing right now?
we have sent some requested information to the administration building. And Lee Denning is working on drawing up the contract for the option that you chose.
Uh-huh.
Once she has that, which I imagine it will be delayed now, but once she has that, then we will forward it to John for him to look at,
Okay.
and then it'll come to the council for a vote.
Okay.
But Mr. Mills, for now, Mr. Mills is willing to move forward and do what he's been doing. So
Okay.
he understands the situation we're in, and he's doing everything he can to help us.
Good.
Good.
Working out very well for our citizens.
Right.
And Keisha is doing an excellent job communicating back and forth with him and doing everything that needs to be done. So we're good there.
Yeah. I'm real pleased with the way it's going now. There doesn't seem to be any problem, but I just had not heard for sure if Mr. Mills was going to continue on. I knew the county would, but I didn't know about him, and I just didn't want him to drop us right off the bat, you know.
Well,
He wouldn't do that.
actually, the county is the one that brought it up and said that we need to get something into place because they didn't feel like they could operate like they're operating on a very long-term basis. So it was very urging to push us ahead also.
Okay.
If we're going to try to do another virtual meeting, I know that Mr. Bradley said that he would work with Tina to try to learn how to do this. John, I would suggest if you could possibly train me in on it, because it looks like we're going to have to do our planning and zoning and our Board of Appeals meetings this way also, because we don't want to let that get backlogged. So
That's correct. I'll be happy to work with you on that.
okay, very good. I think things have gone very well tonight. Once again, we want to thank Miss Tina. Ms. Martin has done an excellent job putting this all together and speaking for all of my council members and even the citizens of Westmoreland. We appreciate it, because getting this out on live streaming so everyone could see it, and I never thought that we would be making history here, as Mr. Bradley was saying. So,
And
Where's
I
your mom?
apologize for my little mishap there a couple of times, but I'm having to do it on my cell phone because my desktop is not equipped for it. And my tablet will not download the app. So I apologize, but I did get back up and running.
You're doing great, Vice Mayor.
Hey, Mr. Bradley. Mr. Bradley, what happened to your palm tree? Your palm tree
Well,
went.
I was afraid people would think I was on vacation or something, so I took it down.
All right,
Ms. Martin, do
But
you have
Sunday
anything to
is
share?
Palm Sunday, don't forget.
Right.
that's right.
That's right. Ms. Martin, do you have anything to share with us? And once again, we appreciate all of your help.
No, Mayor, just happy to help out, and I'll be happy to work with Mr. Bradley and yourself, get you guys all squared away. Whatever I can do to help you out, just let me know. And you guys all did great tonight. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you. It's almost 9 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and close this work study session, and we will be communicating with everyone and post notices as how we're going to proceed with this in the future. But right now, for sure, we'll be looking at our next council date. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
April 16th.
16th, I was going to say the 18th, April the 16th at 4 o'clock. And if I forget to come, call and let me know.
Hey, I have a question. Mr. Bradley, and of course, nobody knows this, I know, but you all think the comptroller's office will extend our time frame on getting the budget done?
Yes,
Okay,
I believe they will. I believe they will.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
everything is being extended. So it's, I would be really surprised if they didn't give at least an extra couple of months for budgets, but we'll look into that, but I'm pretty sure they will.
We would have to continue working off of our current budget year right now if
Yeah,
that happens.
You just
Right.
pass a resolution of continuation of the old budget and you can
Right.
go for a while with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But the sooner we can wrap it up, which is not going to be good numbers, I know, but Mayor, if you can come up with some dates maybe for us to start a budget meeting, if we could work through it to get a start.
I suggest we talk about that at our meeting in 2 weeks. Give the mayor some time to figure out a schedule, a proposed schedule, talk to the controller's office and have that on the agenda for consideration in 2 weeks.
That sounds good.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody. Appreciate all your help.